Hey guys, something colourful this week with this cute Teletubbies cake. I'm sticking down my 8-inch round cake slightly towards the back of my drum with ganache. Then I'm just layering up with jam and buttercream until it's 4 cake layers high. You want to start carving this into a dome shape, taking a bit off at a time. The real Teletubby house is much flatter, but we still do want lots of yummy cake inside, so we're making it a little higher. It's a cake versus accuracy dilemma that you have to choose between. Keep all your large offcuts as we're going to use them on the bottom. It can look really messy at this stage, but we're trying to not have a lot of wastage. It's still going to taste great. I'm then coating the whole thing in a layer of dark chocolate ganache, which you'll find the recipe for linked below. Once that first coat has set, I'm adding a second layer and then going in with an acetate smoother just to smooth the lines out a bit. I've also left the front slightly flat for the door. Next, I'm rolling out some yellow paste, keeping it quite chunky and cutting out a circle for the door and a slightly thinner circle for the windows, which I'm going to chop in half. I'm also just going to indent a shallow line into my chunky circle. I've then traced the pattern of the doors and windows onto some greaseproof paper, which I can just transfer onto my windows and doors by pressing in with a Dresden tool. This is the new Teletubbies version with the yellow door. If you're going down the retro route, you want a silver or grey door. I'm then just following my indented lines with light blue paint. Stick your door onto the flattened front of the dome with water. To pad out the windows, I've just cut a chunky circle of white paste using the same size cutter as the windows, cut it in half and layer them up into this chunky half circle. We then want this to rest against flat on the dome, so we need to cut it at an angle. You want to cut diagonally from the front bottom to the top at the back. Once you make this slice all the way through with a knife, you're left with a big lemon wedge shape or a watermelon slice shape. Stick this to the side with water and place your window on the front. Trim any of the white paste if it bulges out. I've then rolled a chunky sausage of green paste which I've slightly flattened and I'm laying it around the front door, squashing the paste towards the dome. I'm also filling in the gaps under the windows just so it meets the dome better. I'm also adding a few blobs of paste to the board to create little hills, but this is optional. Dampen the whole cake with water before laying over a large sheet of green sugar paste. Slowly work your way around, working out the pleats and pushing your paste around the windows and doors. If you've rolled it big enough, you should be able to cover the cake and the board all in one. With your scalpel, cut out a hole where the door would be and remove the inner paste. Use your fingers and a Dresden tool to push the cut seams around the door and do the same for the windows. Once everything is covered, trim off the excess from the edge of the board. Now you've seen me texture with star tips and piping tips and toothbrushes before, but because this is such a large area, I also have these nail brushes. Just push this into the paste and give it a little twist as you go to create lots of texture. Just go over the whole dome, and in any areas that are hard to reach, you can go in with a toothbrush for the same effect. You can of course use a piping tip, but this will make your job even longer. The new Teletubby house has a few more wildflowers and foliage growing on it, so I'm just adding little pieces of yellow, white, darker green and red and poking at it with a Dresden tool to create the illusion of tiny flowers. For Laa Laa's ball, I'm using a polystyrene ball and pushing it inside a ball of orange paste, slowly encasing the whole thing and then rolling it tightly between my hands to get rid of all the seams. Push a cocktail stick down into this and then down into the top of the dome to hold it still. For the bodies, you just start with a chunky cone, and I'm just running the base of my thumb across the top half so it creates this tiny little belly. Place this to the right of the ball near the back, securing it with a kebab stick and leaving some sticking up to hold the head. The feet start as a sausage, and then I'm rolling my finger 1/3 along so it starts to create a ball at the end. Tease and squeeze this ball into more of a block for the foot and thin out the ankle and leg. For an arm, this starts as a sausage and you want to flatten one end out between your fingers and then cut in a little thumb. Define the thumb with your fingers and tap in the hand, so it's a bit like a mitten shape, again thinning any wrist and arm areas out. Chop this at an angle, sticking it to the shoulder with water and laying the hand on top of the ball. The other arm is made in the exact same way, so I'm just inserting a cocktail stick down so it will maintain a waving arm position. Gently twist the arm down the cocktail stick until it meets the shoulder, sticking again with water. The head starts as a flattened ball, which I'm then marking a circle inside with a ball tool until we've got a little crater in the centre. Fill this hole with some pale flesh colour, squeezing the joins together. I've also run my finger across this flesh colour to create the indents for the eyes and the bump for the nose. With a Dresden tool, marking a half semicircle shape towards the lower part of the bump and cut it out for the mouth. Fill this area in with a little piece of black paste, squashing it flat. With the larger end of your tool, push in just below the top lip corners and start to define a bottom lip gently. Just push out any harsh lines with your finger. With the sharp end, mark in a little line on the top lip and then 2 tiny diagonal lines from it, which almost looks a bit like a rabbit's nose. Back to the smaller ball tool, we're going to wiggle this slightly larger to create eye sockets and fill them in with white paste, flattening them out. Then place in balls of black, flattening these out quite large and finishing off with tiny white balls for catch lights. I'm also marking in the appearance of an eyelid. To make sure Laa Laa doesn't have a massive chin, I'm just pushing in the yellow paste underneath and squashing her face back together until I get the look I want, as we've been squashing it flat for a while. Slightly twist the head down the kebab stick, placing it at an angle. For the ears, I'm starting with a squashed lemon shape using my palm, and then I'm layering the exact same shape on top but in the pale flesh, pushing the colours together. Squash this onto the side of the head with water, taking care to ensure it's at the right height and sticking out just enough. Her little antenna starts as a tapered string, which I'm just curling round a bit like a pig's tail, and placing this on top of the head with water. Now I've got a little bit of grey paint and I'm painting in the square on the stomach and also the base of the feet. You can just use sugar paste for this if you want. Dipsy is made in exactly the same way, but in green and just slightly larger than Laa Laa. His face is also a deeper colour and his antenna is just a straight point. Tinky Winky again is the same body shape but slightly larger than Dipsy, and his antenna is made from first rolling a string and then squashing this string into a point between your 2 fingers. Move the string along and make another squeeze before joining the bottom 2 pieces to make a soft triangle. Twist the base of this, cut it flat and attach it to the head. The last Teletubby, Po, is made in the same way but in red, and she is the smallest. I'm making the name using tappets, layering it on some yellow paste and cutting out the logo shape a bit like a jelly bean. Stick this to the front of the board with water. The edge was also done with click sticks and tappets, which I'll leave a tutorial for below. For the speaker, I'm starting with some grey paste and rolling it into a slight cone, pushing the larger end of the cone flat before indenting it around a large ball tool. Start rolling between your fingers below this, pushing a cocktail stick up inside just enough to still tilt the speaker head. Roll the rest of your paste between your fingers down the stick, chopping off the bottom flat. Use a teeny tiny ball tool to indent the holes inside the speaker. I then left this to set on a foam pad overnight as it was getting a little late and I still had time to finish it in the morning. I then added some larger flowers just for interest using yellow paste and a flower plunger cutter. Because of the texture of the cake, these can be quite hard to stick on with water, so this is why I'm pushing a hole into the centre to anchor them on before filling the hole with some balls of white paste. Then in the morning I just placed the speaker down into the cake and painted the centre of it with gold paint. And that's it, all done. Once you've made one Teletubby, all the others are easy enough as only the antenna changes and their body size. Like I said, this is the new version of the Teletubbies. If you want an older one, there will be less wildflowers and a grey door. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please let me know that you're still out there and watching by leaving a comment, and I'll see you again next week. Bye guys.